Hello, my name is Heinz-Jürgen Scherer from TransWare AG. Welcome to the webinar Frameworx 17.5 working together with Sparx Systems ProCloud Server. And with me in the meeting is my colleague Volker Rautenberg. Good afternoon, Volker.
Good afternoon, Heinz-Jürgen.
Yeah. So we prepared that meeting, first showing you some slides to give you a background about Frameworx, Frameworx to be used with Sparx Systems Enterprise Architect, ProCloud Server, and WebEA. And the main part of the webinar will be managed by Volker. He will demonstrate the tools live. And then we wrap up with one slide and some Q&A for questions we will receive. So the agenda, I start with an introduction, then give you some backgrounds about Frameworx and Spark tools. We go into live demo, we sum up, and to the Q&A section. Very quickly about the vendor, the company we are working for, it's TransWare AG. We are independent software vendor from Germany. We work worldwide. We have a branch office in Orlando, Florida. We are very specialized of model transformations, and test automation means by having model content, process models or architecture frameworks, and to convert them between different tools and repositories. We are partner and member of TMF Forum, and we are partner also of Sparx Systems from Australia. I'm Heinz-Jürgen Scherer. I'm the CEO of the company, working for a long time in the domains of enterprise architecture, business process management, and quality management. And with me, my colleague Volker Rautenberg, also working for a long time in those domains. About Frameworx and Sparx. First of all, Frameworx is a well-known architecture framework, and it's based on service-oriented architecture concepts, especially for the telecommunication industry. It's managed by the TMF Forum organization and the members of TMF Forum, and it has 3 sub-frameworks for business process architecture. It's called the eTOM, the Enhanced Telecommunication Operations Map, the TAM, the Telecom Applications Map, and the SIT, the Shared Information and Data Model. The intellectual property of Frameworx belongs and is owned by the TMF Forum organization. And the content of TMF Forum Frameworx, that architecture framework, is available for the members. And it can be downloaded in different XML data formats and as HTML. As we know, it's not easy to use XML by another tool. It's a very generic standard, but mainly not understood by the different tools in the market. Tools for enterprise architecture or business process management. And HTML is more or less static information. It's nice to browse, to explore, to navigate, but you can't manage the content, you can't modify and use it for your blueprint in the next transformation project. TransWare, as a member and the partner of TMF Forum, we provide and we transform Frameworx to the different data formats of the modeling tools, such as Sparx Systems Enterprise Architect, Microsoft Visio, or Software AG ARIS. What's the difference in our approach to the standard Frameworx? As Frameworx can be used mainly by the data it provides and the diagram graphics. For the webinar today, we present the use of Frameworx with Sparx Systems Enterprise Architect and the ProCloud Server. Here we used all the technologies offered by Sparx as UML profiles, the model-driven generation technology, and the native data format to make Frameworx available for the Sparx tools. We offer that as a license for purchase and for download at the TransWare web shop. So you can go to the web shop and download a copy of the tool, or especially for the framework. The frameworks that can be used by Enterprise Architect allows you to be an active part of your transformation projects. So you can use it as a basis, as a standard to streamline your business processes, being compliant with the standard, design business blueprints using Enterprise Architect. The Enterprise Architect is used by many, many organizations, especially in the telco business. Further on, you can use the content for your team collaboration, and today we will present the new ProCloud Server and its central model repository. So mainly to use Enterprise Architect as the active tool to modify that content for the collaboration and to store it within the ProCloud Server. And then to reuse it for communication and publishing by the WebEA tool to allow you the exploration by just using a web browser. It's mainly the tool used by stakeholders in your organization. Further on, as an active part, you can use the framework's content. We have an additional solution to generate or to automate the generation of end-to-end test cases. It's a technology called model-based testing. So the eTOM, for example, business processes can be used to generate a test case and to be tested with HP ALM or Microsoft Team Foundation Server, Jira, or simply Excel. Another solution, you can use frameworks as an active content for process performance publishing of specific KPIs of your organization, coming from backend systems like SAP ERP. And so that can be an active part of the performance publishing. So how it looks like, we will see more in the details by Volker. The content that is stored in ProCloud Server can be accessed by a web browser, the EA front end. And you can see here, this is another screenshot. You see, for example, in BPMN process flow with all the information behind. So you can see all the objects, the flow itself, documentation, more metadata of properties and association you can follow. The navigation in the WebEA client is very simple. It's a browser tree you can navigate through. There are hyperlink and associations coming from the frameworks content we provide within the repository. So you see a lot of blue hyperlinks you can click on and follow. And stakeholders can use a powerful search to search the diagrams, the objects, the documentation. And this is really powerful. For example, you see here a TAM, a function by applications map. As I already said, we have built frameworks in Sparx EA on the native technology, on UML profiles, etc., and defined for frameworks a modeling language that is built upon different types of model types and diagram types. You see here different packages for eTOM, TAM, the TAM SID mapping, the matrix, etc. So these are all specific build model types for frameworks. But if we can use a standard like BPMN, you can see here the prefix of BPMN. We use standard BPMN to design the eTOM implementation levels. This makes it easy to reuse existing BPMN flows within the frameworks and to customize frameworks for the need of your organization or your transformation project. Here are some examples of the specific notation. So a modeling language depends on the meta model of a diagram and the notation, which symbols and shapes are used. We have designed that for a specific framework's modeling language. You can see here some examples. So you see here those specific associations, the object type of a framework's application, categories, etc. This is very specific and native to the framework's concepts and structure. But as already mentioned, if possible, we are using standards like BPMN to be, let's say, to reuse your existing diagram types within the umbrella of the framework's framework. It continues that we not only deal with the pure objects, relationships, and the diagrams, the graphics, we also included all metadata, all documentation in the content. So this is a rich content that can be used to explore, to see what's the standard or what the members are defining as a standard. As said, there are relationships available. So you can see here that's an element. So in Sparx, we call an object an element. And there are relationships with associations and links, they are called. Different types we can see here. And you can use them to follow and to jump from one element to another that is related. At that point, I like to stop the presentation and I like to hand over to Volker to show the content live by Sparx EA and the ProCloud Server. Volker.
Okay, very good, Hans-Jürgen. So I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Very good. So that's okay. And now let me share my screen. Okay, share. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Very good. So here we are. So in mid-August, we have presented a webinar about Frameworx for Enterprise Architect, the desktop tool by Sparx Systems, used mainly by the architects team. Today, we demonstrate Frameworx in WebEA, the web-based enterprise architect application by Sparx System. WebEA provides real-time collaboration features for another target group, as mentioned by Hans-Jürgen, the business stakeholders. So it needs to be a simple tool. For this group, it's important to read and consume the relevant models and to provide feedback to their process owners or maybe the architects. In this live demo part, I would like to present how Frameworx 17.5 looks and feels in WebEA. In particular, I wish to shed some light on these 6 items. The first one is the repository's structure, package structure in WebEA. Next, item 2 is about the metadata. I simply want to highlight 2 element types and their individual tagged value types attached to them. Item 3 is diagram navigation. Item 4 would be relationships, which is about connectors and associations. Item 5 would be switching items in WebEA. And finally, as a last item, I would like to create a new package and a new diagram in the classical desktop enterprise architect and show how the effect looks in WebEA. So that's our schedule for today for the live demo part. And now let me simply start showing you the repository's package structure. Actually, you've already seen it in Hans-Jürgen's slides. So I've delved into the TM Forum Frameworx 17.5.0. And what you can see, of course, at first there's the well-known diagram, all frameworks start here. But I think most important to you are the eTOM and the TOM packages. So the eTOM, the business process framework, and TOM, the application framework of Frameworx itself. So just a brief glance into the substructure of this package. It is actually structured according to the different diagram types that we encounter in the original frameworks. So we have BP framework level 2, BPR flow level 3, 4. We have business process domain level 2, and we have a couple of business process hierarchy levels ranging from 1 to 7, and a couple of others. Okay, so that's actually the structure of eTOM. And if I go inside such a subpackage, we typically encounter diagrams and the contained element definitions. Let me switch back and a very brief glance into the TOM, the application framework. So it's the same principle here. We have sub-packages named after the original Frameworx diagram types like application by function hierarchy, application domain level 2, and so forth. Okay, so that's been covering my first item that answers the question how the repository in WebEA has been structured by us. So I'd like to go to my next item, which is about element types and their tagged value types. And I'd simply like to explore the Frameworx diagrams, their contents, and how they look like in WebEA. For this, I would like to step into eTOM, the business process framework, and consider the business process domain level 2. Okay, and let me simply open this first diagram here, market sales management. Okay, from the diagram, you can see that we have two different element types. The first one here is a domain element, market sales domain, which you can also see here. It's of class FXDOM, which is an abbreviation for Frameworx domain. And the metadata is presented here in this nodes-like window section here. So it's containing normally two different kinds of information: diagram hyperlinks, if present, and a description. That is the original description coming from Frameworx. So Frameworx supports different hyperlinks, as opposed to Enterprise Architect, where normally you only have one supported hyperlink. However, we have created the section diagram hyperlinks so that we fully support multiple hyperlinks. Okay, so this is one part of the metadata, hyperlinks and the description, originating more or less from the notes, or will be found in the classical EA in the notes window. In addition to that, we have properties which are related to Sparx Systems Enterprise Architect. Of course, we have author information. The originating author is TM Forum. We have a creation date. We, of course, have included the version of Frameworx, which is 17.5, and the status of Frameworx, of course, is approved. Okay, so this is one important part, notes, properties, but there is another important part of the tag value types. And I'll not scroll down here, but I'll follow the link to the full property list, which brings up this new web view. And here, this is the correct place to scroll down. You can see a section called tag values. So we are talking about Frameworx domain element, and it has a number of tag values like the category, which is saying it's a Frameworx domain. We have command. In this case, there is no command. We have a creation date. We have a domain ID for TOM, which is saying 03. These two following tag value types, source GUID and source type category, they refer to the original GUID, the global unique identifier of this element, as well as the source type, which is a Frameworx domain, and a category, in this case, the same name, Frameworx domain. Okay, so this is the set, actually, of one type of element, Frameworx domain. I'll switch back. And let me select this element here, market strategy and policy. And as you can see, it's of kind business process. Actually, it's a BPMN 2.0 process. And again, we have the information about hyperlinks here. There's just a single hyperlink. We have a description, which is the original description, of course. And let me now jump into the full property list. Here we are. I scroll down. Of course, the hyperlinks and the description is reflected here again. And I'll scroll down here. Okay. So as you can already recognize by the scroll bar, we have many more tagged value types as compared to the Frameworx domain element. So for instance, we've got an alternate name, which is 1.1 market strategy policy. We've got a brief description here, so if you expand it here, you go to the brief description tags. We, for instance, have a maturity level here, which is saying it's level 4. We have a process context, just expand that one here, and you get to the metadata related to process context. And we have a couple of more tagged values that are specific to a business process, or to be more precise, as you can see here, as this element, its source type and category is actually a Frameworx process. This is the source type, and the source category is to eTOM process type. Okay, so by this, I simply wanted to demonstrate that we have captured all the relevant metadata from original Frameworx, and now it's reflected in EA, or particularly in WebEA. By this, I'd like to finish my item number 2 about element types and the tag value types. And I'd like to switch to item number 3, which is about data navigation. For this, I'd like to jump back into eTOM. Okay. Oh, okay. And no, I was correct in doing this. Okay. All frameworks start here. This is where I want to go. This is well known to you. So if we go to the right, you see the full extent of this diagram. I simply want to demonstrate how you can navigate using the diagrams. So you simply select this element here, Business Process Framework, or eTOM. Following, like in the classical desktop EA, following this hyperlink symbol doesn't work. So we have the capability of following the diagram hyperlinks included here in this notes window. As you can see, we have 4 of them, and I'd simply like to follow the first one, going to the Business Process Framework level 1 categories. Okay, here we are. So we have navigated to another level, and let me, for instance, select the engaged party domain. Okay, so again, selection is made. The selection is reflected here. So all the information relating to engaged party domain is shown here, and we may simply follow this hyperlink. So we get to another level, and again here, for instance, party revenue management, select this one. I drill down 1 level, and so forth. So this is the way navigation can be done. I've demonstrated this for eTOM. Of course, you're free to use the browser here in WebEA and simply do the navigation on this side as well. Okay, this brings me to my next item, which is about links, about relationships, connectors, associations. And let me show this in this package, BPF Flow Level 4. And I simply pick the first diagram here, which represents a true BPMN flow. Okay, so let me select this element here, Verify Product Configuration. And as you may already have noticed from the things I've presented previously, there is a subsection here on the right-hand side saying relationships. We have actually 2 different kinds of relationships in Enterprise Architect. The one kind is called association, which you can see here. So we have one association here going to isolate customer problem, and we have other associations sitting here. These associations are not visually represented in the diagram. They are simple associations to other elements. But we also have visual connections, as you can see. For instance, this element here has a connection here, which travels from the start event to the element, and there's one outgoing connection going to this gateway. And these are reflected here. So they are actually control flows. The one that's outgoing points to the gateway select diagnostics and or tests. And the other control flow is incoming from the start event. Navigation to the related elements is very easy. In WebEA, you can simply point and click, for instance, to isolate customer problem, and then you have followed actually the association. It's as simple as that. To be honest, it's very simple in WebEA. In desktop EA, it's a little bit more complicated. Okay, so I've introduced connectors, associations. Next would be to run a simple search in WebEA. You simply click on this looking glass and select custom search. And if you are searching, for instance, for, well, a diagram, bill, invoice, search for diagrams, that's correct. Other searches would be possible as well. Search in the name of the diagram and when, okay, I say for any time, run the search and you get the information and hopefully the diagram you're after. In my case, it would have been received party bill invoice, and I can simply navigate to this using the search functionality. Okay, finally, let me very quickly show how architects may update the repository. This would involve switching to the classical, to the desktop EA. So let's assume an architect or a process owner is including a new package. It will be recommendable to do it. So saying, for instance, my diagrams, okay. And we get this new package here. And inside this package, I'd like to create a new diagram and simply call it my process. It shall be of type business process, in particular BPMN 2.0 business process. So here we are, created inside the package. And okay, normally it's recommendable as you have the full contents of Frameworx at hand. For instance, you would like to reuse an existing business process. You could simply drag and drop it here. It appears as a link. I would also like to add a new business process of mine, which is specific to our company. And to make it a real diagram, I'd like to add a start event. Okay, an end event. Okay, and simply draw sequence flow connectors. Okay, here we are. Another one here. And finally, this guy here. Okay, so fine. I press Ctrl S to save my process. And now I'd like to switch back to WebEA in order to reflect the changes made on the architect side. Okay, go up. Here we are. So we've got the new package, my diagrams. We've got the new diagram, my process, and here we are. Okay, so that's been my live demo part. So Heinz-Jürgen, I'd like to switch back to you to summarize today's webinar.
Thank you, Volker. So I'm back in presentation mode. Is the slide available, Volker?
Just a second. Yes, I can see it.
Good. So as a brief wrap-up, we have some key takeaways. As Volker has demonstrated today, we can use the Sparx Systems ProCloud Server as a central web-based repository with an interface using the publishing component called WebEA for business stakeholders, easy navigation, exploring of the content. And managing the content means by having the frameworks within Sparx Enterprise Architect. The Sparx Enterprise Architect tool is the interface for the business analysts and enterprise architects. To make that available, we are using the core technologies offered by Enterprise Architect, such as the model-driven generation as native implementation. So Frameworx gets a native implementation of a framework within Sparx using the add-in technology. It can be used as demonstrated as an active modeling content. So Volker has reused content of Frameworx and added new content and published through the ProCloud Server to the web using the WebEA interface. And therefore, the Frameworx for Sparx EA is an accelerator, an active accelerator for your next transformation projects, as you can reuse that content, the best practice. Standard products can enhance that content, like end-to-end test case generation for many famous and well-known tools such as HPLM or Team Foundation Server. And you can add additional information like KPI, like business charts, etc., for performance publishing with a standard product by TransWare. We have tested Frameworx with Sparx EA for version 13 and 14. And therefore, it can be used for the collaboration in Enterprise Architect and for the communication part with ProCloud Server and WebEA. Finally, Frameworx for Enterprise Architect is available at our TransWare web shop, so it can be licensed and download. And we provide new versions, 1 or 2 every year. Meanwhile, we have collected some queries in the Q&A session. Volker, there's one for you. How often Frameworx for Sparx is updated?
Yes, so we are following the publishing provided by TM Forum. So typically we have 2 new releases of Frameworx per year. So it may be 1, it may be 2. And we at TransWare try to follow this as closely as possible to come up with the latest version of Frameworx. So currently we have 17.5 in shop. 18.0 is already published on the horizon. We are working on it.
Thank you, Volker.
There's another one regarding the limitation using Frameworx in Enterprise Architect. Heinz-Jürgen, can you provide details?
So, well, we live in limitations for sure, but if you're thinking for technical limitations, there are none. The framework is fully implemented on Sparx EA technology. As said, it's based on UML profiles, stereotypes, defining a custom Frameworx modeling language that is mixed and extended with standards like BPMN. A final question for you, Volker. All that metadata and documentation of Frameworx, is it provided or is there something missing?
Well, the answer is all of the relevant information is provided for Sparx Enterprise Architect, WebEA. So we have made every effort to include all relevant information. The only exception would be some data which are privacy of TM Forum and would provide insights into users on their side. So we have skipped that kind of information. But all of the relevant information for production use is definitely included.
Thank you, Volker. At that point, I'd like to say thank you for attending that webinar using Frameworx with Sparx Enterprise Architect and ProCloud Server. And you will shortly receive an email with the recording of that webinar. Thank you. Bye.